Hey everybody, today I'm going to be teaching you guys factoring by grouping 4 terms, otherwise known as lesson 3.12. So here we go. The first thing you have to have is 4 terms. Now see this, they all have a different variable. They're all, not to have the same thing. Like there's no like pairs. So the first step to factoring by grouping is to set them up into 2 groups. Thus, the name, right? Okay. So then what you're gonna do to these is you're gonna try and make sure that these are the same equation. That sounds weird, but we're gonna do it. So here's what you're gonna do next. So you're gonna basically divide these equations or expressions by a factor of these numbers right here. So make sure that these two are the same thing. So as you can see, these 2 numbers, 4 and 12, both have a common factor of 4. So we're going to divide this by 4. Well, you don't really divide, but we're taking 4 out. Now, not just 4, but you see, we want this to have no x squared on it. We want this to be a normal x, because that's what this is. This is just a normal x and a constant. So we're going to divide it not just by 4, but by 4x squared. And when you do that, you're gonna get something like this. You're gonna get x plus 3, because you're dividing it by 4x squared. Okay? So you took out 4 and x squared, and when you divide x's, then basically minus, so it's just a normal x with no exponent. So you're going to write it like this, but to make sure that you don't forget the 4x squared, because that's going to be part of your later factor, you're going to write it on the side here, okay? Okay. So once you have it there, you're going to go to the next problem, and make sure that when you divide, you're going to get this same expression right here, like finding a similar greatest common factor. So I have 5 and 15. So 5 seems like the biggest common factor. So I'm going to divide by 5. And I'm not going to divide by 5x or 5 anything like that, because the lowest thing we have is just a constant. And this thing right here is just a constant. So if I divide by x, not only will it work, but this won't be an x, while this is. So I'll be solving incorrectly. So let me write down what you're gonna get when you divide this by 5, eh? Okay, so you're gonna get something like this. Well, we've already seen it before, because when you divide 15 by 5, of course you get 3. You're gonna get 3. So these two are the same thing. That means that I have solved one part of the factor, and there's gonna be 2 parts of your factored answer. So I'm going to write this here. Now remember, it's a plus. It's a positive 5. So once you have this is basically your answer. Like I said, I didn't say it, but no, this subject is very easy. Factoring by grouping, sometimes. So you're going to bring these down, these 2 parts right here, as a part of your answer. So when you box your answer in, it's going to be 4x squared plus 5, and then you're going to put these down as x plus 3, and that will be your answer for the problem if you ever come across something like this on a test. Alright, let's go for another example here. We've got 9a cubed minus 27a squared minus 30a plus 90. Okay, so those are some big numbers, So we're gonna do it the same way we've always done it, or already you've seen me do it. So we're gonna put some parentheses around these two groups, because we have 4 terms. Now this grouping, remember, only works with 4 terms, mainly, so, well, in this kind of grouping. So anyway, we're gonna do this again, and try and get these down to a same number, and get whatever we divided by into its own factor by itself. So first thing we're gonna do is find the greatest common factor in these two numbers. So I think it's 9. Sure, let's go with that. And it's going to divide by 9, but again, we have to make sure these things are the same. So I'm going to add a squared a. Alright. And so when you get that, you're going to get a, and then you're going to get 3. Now, minus a negative number is never good, but you know, whatever we have to do. So, right now we're going to go find the greatest common factor of this right here, eh? Okay, so we got this, we got a negative 30 and plus 90. So, I think we're going to have to divide a negative number, and as it seems the highest one is 30. So I think we're going to have to divide by 30. So this way, we'll get a, and assuming I'm not bad at math, we get, see, that's why I'm not a good teacher, and we get minus 3 again. Right, so let's write down our numbers over here. I'm going to write in different colors because OCD kicks in sometimes. And so, gotta put that there, right? Okay, so now we have our 2 parts of the answer. That looks more like a Q, but you know, it's fine. It's fine. No, we got it. That looks even more so like a Q. But you kind of get it. That's how you do these kinds of problems. Alright, if you're like me, you like to see things as they apply in the real world. Now, this situation that I'm about to tell you might seem a bit crazy, but let me tell you, it's something to relate to the real world. Okay, so say I have maple syrup squared. Now, just, I don't know what that would be like, this, you know, super syrup. But say you have maple syrup squared plus a beaver attached to a maple syrup plus another beaver attached to a maple syrup, and then you have 2 beavers just by themselves. Now we're going to do what we've been doing for a while. We're going to separate them into groups and hope that with some strange calculations we're going to be able to get these beavers and these maple syrup vials into these ships, I guess, to make sure, you know, I'm just trying to apply this to the real world. I don't think you'll ever end up in a situation where we're going to have to ship beavers and maple syrup, but hey, you never know. Anyway, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to see if we can get these to the same thing. So let's find a common factor between this maple syrup and maple syrup squared and maple syrup with a beaver. Now, let's see. I'm going to divide by the greatest common factor, which seems to see they both have a maple syrup. So I'm going to divide by 1 maple syrup. Now, that's a bit crazy, but trust me, it all makes sense to you. So, once I divide by 1 maple syrup, I'm going to get something like this. I'm just going to write it 1 maple syrup. Maple syrup plus, now since we took away that maple syrup, because they both had 1 maple syrup, because this one has 2 even, so we're going to be left with 1 maple syrup, but this one is going to have none because it only had one maple syrup, so it's just going to be a normal beaver. So you have a maple syrup plus a beaver. Okay, we're already in the strange. Now we're going to put that maple syrup on the side though, so maple syrup. Maple syrup on the side, right? So if I'm going to go to the next part, now these seem to have more beavers, so I think the greatest common factor we're going to have is a beaver. So I'm going to divide by one beaver. Quote that, divide by one beaver. Alright, so we divide by one beaver. So we divide by one beaver, and that'll get us, so we're going to be taking away this beaver right here, which will give us one maple syrup. It's actually more fun to draw them, I guess. But then later on, or immediately, we're going to take one beaver away from this little pile of beavers. So we'll end up with one beaver. So, as you can see, we kind of figured it out, even though it seems as strange and confusing. We have in these one maple syrup and one beaver, and we're going to add this on the side as just a beaver. So, in fact, we solved for what seems to be a very strange problem that's in an attempt to relate to the real world. So, we write these as our answers. I'm going to write them on these ships just so it looks cool. So, and one factor, I guess you could say, factor. We have one maple syrup, one beaver, and another one maple syrup, and one beaver. Now when you have something like this is another special occasion. So since both your answers are the same, since it's one maple syrup and one beaver, your answer you can actually simplify to, this. It'll be one maple syrup plus one beaver So you'll get one maple syrup and one beaver squared. See, so this is a special case when you have, when your answers are both the same expression. You'll just instead simplify it to whatever it is plus whatever it is squared. So if you both your answers are like, just to make it less confusing, if it's like x plus 5 and another x plus 5 is what you've come out to, and you'll just put it to like x plus 5 squared. So something along the lines of that, but I don't know. Maple syrup and beaver seems very appropriate.